Hello guys, in this new video I'm gonna show you why and how to transition from the Cold Dot to an Ignite Vortex Elementalist. If you have any questions after this, you can tell me in the comments and I will try to help you. This is the minimum that you need to get in order to do it. Don't try to do it with less because it will feel bad to play and it will be worse than before. League builds in general have a set goal that's taking you to red maps with the minimum investment in gear to allow you to farm currency. Remember that in PoE you generally have better rewards the harder the content is. This is why we don't stay farming in white maps forever, because doing the same in red maps is more profitable. This is also one of the primary reasons why Infinite Heists in low level contracts was deleted a couple leagues ago. Cold Dot Elementalist is one of those builds that are pretty good early on, as we already saw, but after a certain point it doesn't scale very well, so this limitation naturally pushes you to transition into a different build. The build I'm gonna show you today is Ignite Vortex Elementalist. In a nutshell, we are Elementalists casting Vortex and causing that enemies that stand on our Vortex area gets ignited. It sounds weird because Vortex is a cold spell, so how are you igniting with that, right? This is essentially the PoE's magic with building a character. First, I'm going to try to convince you that you need to take the next step and let Cold Dot go. First, Ignite Vortex has much better damage scaling. The main reason is that Ignite is in a pretty good spot in modern PoE because of multiple reasons, like having a lot of uniques that supports it, class attributes with a lot of opportunities, the skill tree nodes are pretty good, and Ignite related mods that you can find in items are also pretty good as well. Then the Ignite Vortex is much less bar intensive compared to Cold Dot, because in Cold Dot we had to cast, for example, Vortex in our left click, we had to also cast Cold Snap to deal damage as a separate skill, then we had to cast Creeper Frost as another skill to cause damage, and sometimes we had to cast the Vault Cold Snap. In Ignite Vortex we just have Vortex binded into left click and that's it. This is literally like a walking simulator, and that's why it feels much better with the pressing button thing. Then it has a much better clear thanks to the Ignite Proliferation properties. The clear is much smoother and feels much better to play because you can get this kind of Ignite Proliferation either from a Cluster Jewel or the Eldritch implicit in the gloves or the gem support itself, which you don't have the equivalent for the Cold Dots. And finally, the build has a lot of similarities with the Cold Dot, so you won't have to change everything. You will have to change some substantial changes, for example in the tree, in the gear, and so on, but you won't have to change everything, so that's a pretty good startup. And in the other hand, the main con is for this transition is that you need currency. Okay, this is why we don't start with the Ignite Vortex from the Act 1, and we need to have another build to build some currency and to buy or get all of these pieces. Okay, let's start with the transition. I have here the POB for my old Cold Dot, or I would say the last version for my Cold Dot build. And we are going to start with the skill gems. So first I'm going to delete everything that we have here, so we don't confuse the gems and links and anything like that. Can delete this. Okay, so we are going to start with the main link, and that is, like we already said, we are going to start playing with Vortex, right? We're going to add the general damage support gems, so Deadly Ailments, for example, and Swift Affliction. Then we're going to add Empower. That's pretty standard for any kind of spell gems because you get extra levels, and scaling levels these spell gems is pretty damn good. And then we're going to add the Unbound Ailments for extra duration on our ignites. And finally, we are going to add here the Cold Fire gem, so we convert a lot of the cold damage that Vortex does into fire, because in the end we're going to scale fire damage, okay? And this is going to be our main setup, and that's the only skill that we're going to cast to deal damage. Then we're going to have the shield charge because we are still going to use shield with faster attacks. And then we are going to add combustion. Okay, so we are going to shield charge the enemies, for example, for single target damage to decrease its fire resistance. This is a little bonus that you're going to do just in special occasions when the boss is it has too many health because of the map mods or stuff like that. And then we have to we're going to add flame dash so we can have these double skills for the movement. Then we are going to add our Arcanist brand setup with the elemental weakness. We are going to be inflicting 2 curses. One you will have here in the Arcanist brand, and the other one will be on hit in a mod in a ring. And then we're going to add the flame surge. Okay, this is a multiplier for damage that does some dots in the ground. This is you just have to cast the Arcanist brand, and everything and all the rest is going to be auto casted by it. Then we're going to have the typical cast when damage taken. This is literally the same as we had with the Cold version with Molten Shell. Then we're going to add our aura setup. We're going to still using Grace, Determination, and Malevolence. Now is going to be in our main setup. Okay, we aren't going to use Malevolence in our Blazing Aura, but now it's always active, and this is pretty good. And to fit all of these 50% auras, you're going to have to use an Enlighten at level 3 at least. And finally, the Blessing setup, right? We are still using this since we have the Eldritch Battery keystone. So we're going to use the Blessing with Hatred. This is optional, but you can also use the Haste too, and the Inspiration Charge for lesser mana in the usage. Then the next step is to roll the Eldritch Implicits on our boots and our gloves, since as you can see here we have that our hits inflicts close exposures. Since now we are dealing ignites, we are dealing fire damage, so the cold doesn't work for our build. So we are just going to change this to its corresponding version for the fire. So I have this prepared here, and just using the lesser 2, we have the fire exposure and hit and the fire damage over time multiplier. In a similar way, we are going to also roll the boots implicits. I don't have anything in particular based on the cold dot here. I have some defensive stuff here, but we want to have the drops the scorched ground while moving. This is pretty good. And here on top you want to have the implicit for the faster ignites. That's pretty good. I still don't have it because I need to, in my current version, I need to have more ignite duration to decrease its duration. So yeah, I still can get it, but once I get my Unbound Ailments skill gems to level 5, I will be able to get it. But just to let you know, here you need to get the faster ignites implicit. Then for the cluster jewels, we aren't using any cluster jewels in the Cultist version, but we are going to use here. And let me tell you that these clusters aren't easy to roll, so they are kind of expensive. Each one costs around 2 divines. So we are going to add the cluster, and there's going to be one with the Doriani Lesson, the Prismatic Heart, and Sadist. Okay, so I'm going to connect here so we can see the cluster jewel here, and as you can see we have our cluster here, and we are going to add the medium cluster too. So the medium cluster is going to have the Fan of the Flames to spread our ignites, and also the wasting affliction, and this basically more damage for our ignites. And we are going to do the same for the large cluster here in the right side of our tree. We're going to add the large cluster, and we're going to leave it like that. We aren't going to change anything here. You can get these ones, and yeah, and that's it for the cluster jewels. Then for the rings, we are going to change both of them, because one of the premium rings we have for the knights is called the Replica Emberwake. The Replica Emberwake is a ring that makes or ignites to be 45% faster if you add the catalyst. I don't know which one, but it's one for the elemental damage. This gets amplified up to 54%. So we are definitely using this. And in the other ring I have here, we are going to need the curse enemies with from ability on hit. So this is our second curse, and this is pretty good for our damage in general. Always having a curse on hit feels pretty damn good for mapping, for example. So when you get by into those rare mobs in our maps, we don't have to press the Arcanist. We are going to just curse it. Then for the jewel slots, as you can see, we have a lot of jewel slots here, 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 and here. We are going to add a jewel with ignites to deal damage faster, then with percentile life increase and some attributes, because we are starving a lot of attributes, especially dexterity and strength. And we're going to add one of these jewels in any of these empty slots. So here, here, and also here. And finally, we are getting a Lethal Pride here. I got this one, and I'm going to tell you what are the mods that we want here. And the main mods that we want to have is the ignites deal faster. This is 10% for each one. So at least I would say to get 2 of them. You're going to see how the 3 changes, but I'm also having this node, so I have the 10% faster here, 10% faster here, and their mods are like meh. If you can get anything else like more life or more fire damage and stuff like that, that's a plus. And if you can get one with 3, that would be even better. You have just to keep attention that your vortex ignites aren't below the 1 second mark. As you can see here, I have 1.33 in this showcase POV. But yeah, in general, the faster ignites is pretty damn good. And a final detail for our Lethal Pride is that we are going to get extra strength. As you can see, we have 2 here, 4 here, 4 here, 2 here, and that's pretty good because again we are starving from strength and dexterity. Then we have the Ascendancy, that we are just going to change the IH's staff to ignites. This is basically the node that allows us to inflict ignites with any kind of damage. In this case, it's cold damage with Vortex. And the final step is to change and reorder some of the skill tree nodes. I'm going to show you my current version with the tree that's reallocated. And this is my current profile in game. So as you can see, we take a different path from here and more stuff. As you can see, also I added some tattoos, because without the tattoos, let me show you, for the reservation nodes, as you can see, I have mana problems when I try to use or a setup that we just saw with the light level 3. If we have 11.4, we would be okay, but 11.4 is pretty expensive. So I found that adding 2 of the tattoos for the efficiency, we are pretty okay. We're going to be just in the limit that we can reserve all the auras, and since we are using the electric battery, we won't have any issues casting our skills. Then to balance the stats, I had to add some of the tattoos for stats to redistribute the intelligence stats to the aura 2. So each one of these are going to give us 4 dexterity and 4 strength and 4 intelligence. And then we are removing all of the nodes we had here, and we are pathing into our cluster jewels. I still don't have it, but I have missing points still. I have to get the extra large cluster that's literally the same as this, and then if I get some extra levels, I will get other medium clusters with Wisdom Affliction and anything else. For example, the life one that gives dot damage and life, that's pretty good too. And that'll be here. And yeah, as you can see, the tree is pretty different. We have this node that's beast for ignites, because we have free 20% extra faster ignites, some more stuff here, life here, and the spell suppression here. There are some ways with more investment to cap or spell suppression, but 70% for now is pretty good. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the tree. And for the transition, as you can see, I have now almost 1.4 million damage with the ignites. This is dot damage, and I'm using just vortex. I'm not stacking any skills that we did with cold dot. So this feels pretty much a lot better, and we're keeping the damage, and I still have the gems in low level. I still don't have the Awaken and Swift Affliction, and like I said early on, we have a lot of room to improve the build. So I'm going to show you now a profile that's pretty much high-end for this build. You're going to see that the damage is on this is crazy high, and yeah, and of course for that we have to farm a lot of currency to progress even further. Okay, so this is how a high end of the version of the Vortex Ignite build looks like. And I have two interesting profiles here in PoE Ninja, so we can take a look for future. And the first thing you see in those profiles is that they have a crazy damage, right? This is dot even. You don't even have to keep hitting the mob to deal that amount of damage. You just leave the vortex and that's deal 20 damage per second. That's crazy. And one thing that we see here is the Skin of the Lords. The Skin of the Lords gives 2 extra levels for our gems, and that includes the vortex and Empower. So with Empower, since it has more levels, it will give more levels. So our vortex, instead of getting just 2, it gets +4, and that's a tech that's pretty damn good. But the Skin of the Lords is pretty damn expensive. As you check the trade, there are over 10 divines. Then, as you can see, we have the Forbidden Flash and the Forbidden Flame for the Frigid Wake from the Occultist. Those are some divines too. Then you can get a very expensive Watcher's Eye. As you can see, we have the damaging elements to deal faster. We have the suppression, and I see also the onslaught, but I don't think that he has haste. No, he doesn't. So yeah, that's the damaging faster. That's pretty damn good. And the spell suppression to cap out with the Watcher's Eye. I'm pretty sure this is pretty expensive. It should be tens of divines. Then we have the Iron Malice with the Vortex Enchantment and the Corruption for the Reservation. So he can fit more auras. As you can see, there is the 50% auras we are using now. And he's also fitting Defiance Banner to get more armor and more evasion from Determination and Grace. And here in the second profile, we have that he's using a Storm Shroud to be Elemental Ailment. I really like this option, and he's just capping the avoidance to shock with the belt and with the Abyss gem. So with Justice and 1 gem slot, his Elemental Ailments, this is pretty damn good. And I see that he's also using a Polaric Devastation to increase the duration on the ignites and also to cover the minions in Ash. That's another multiplier in our damage. And yeah, the rest is basically pretty damn good rare gear. As you can see, +2 level amulet and everything that you want, mace or scepter. A high life and +1 level to all spells, gems, shield. This is the bare minimum state that you can get to transition to the Ignite Vortex. And from now on, you can play the build and grind currency to improve it with what we saw. I hope you liked the video, and again, if you have any questions for the transition, you can tell me in the comments and I will try to help you out. And yeah, if you want to see more PoE content, you can subscribe to the channel, and see you guys in the next video.